Hey there, I'm glad you're here. Today we're diving into something that's not just a policy debate in Washington, it's an issue that touches over 60 million Americans every single month and eventually will touch all of us in one way or another. Social Security. As of August 2025, there's a brand new plan moving through Congress that could reshape how the system is funded, how it operates on a day-to-day basis, and even how you go about getting the benefits you've earned. This isn't just about making sure checks go out on time. It's about whether you can reach a real person when something goes wrong, whether your local Social Security office will still be open next year, and whether the program can keep the promises it's made to generations of Americans. Here's a reality check. If nothing changes, the Social Security trust funds are still projected to run short within the next decade. The latest trustees report released earlier this year confirms that without legislative action, automatic benefit cuts could hit as soon as 2033. That's not a distant maybe anymore, it's a date you can put on the calendar. And that's where this new bill comes in. The aim is to head off those cuts, shore up service for beneficiaries, and modernize the system. But the plan is already facing strong political pushback, and what happens next could affect not just your retirement income, but your ability to get help when you need it most. Before we dive deeper, let me ask, have you or someone you care about ever had a frustrating experience with Social Security? Maybe you spent hours on hold, only to be disconnected. Maybe you showed up at your local field office and found the doors locked or the staff stretched so thin they couldn't give you the help you needed. These aren't rare stories anymore. They've become common across the country. If this kind of calm, plain-spoken breakdown helps you make sense of what's going on, you might want to stick around, because the next few minutes will open your eyes to the realities of the system in 2025. This new proposal is officially called the Keep Billionaires Out of Social Security Act. It was introduced by Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer on August 12, 2025, in the wake of months of public concern about the state of the Social Security Administration, known as the SSA. The timing was no accident. Across the country, frustration has been boiling over. Field offices have been shuttered or operating on reduced hours, call centers are jammed. The main SSA website has had repeated outages, and when you finally do get through to someone, they may be juggling so many cases they can't really address your problem. Schumer chose to unveil the bill at a community center in upstate New York, standing in front of an audience that included local seniors, disability advocates, and frontline SSA staff. Behind him, bold signs read, "Protect Social Security," underscoring the theme of the day. The visuals weren't just for show. They were a signal to the communities most affected that this legislation is about safeguarding what for millions is their primary and sometimes only source of income in retirement. The problems go deeper than just budget constraints. Much of the current strain on SSA operations can be traced back to a wave of staffing cuts and administrative restructuring tied to the creation of a controversial federal agency earlier this year, the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. Created in January 2025 under an executive order, DOGE was tasked with trimming costs across multiple government programs. On paper, efficiency sounded good. After all, who doesn't want the government to run more smoothly? But in practice, for SSA, DOGE's reforms meant eliminating thousands of positions, consolidating services, and even putting some field offices on a closure list. The impact was immediate. In several states, including New York, community protests erupted after news broke that certain local offices would close. In Binghamton, employees staged a walkout, citing impossible workloads and unworkable conditions under the new structure. The situation quickly became a flashpoint, drawing criticism not only from Democrats like Schumer, but from nonpartisan policy analysts who warned that eroding SSA's service capacity would ultimately cost more in delayed claims, increased errors, and public mistrust. That's the backdrop against which Schumer's bill arrives. A system under visible strain, a new agency pushing aggressive cuts, and millions of Americans watching closely to see if Washington can fix a problem that affects their daily lives. In the next part, we'll break down exactly what the bill proposes, why it's generating both praise and criticism, and how it fits into the larger debate over Social Security's future. The Social Security Administration's problems didn't start this year, but 2025 has made them impossible to ignore. For decades, SSA's budget and staffing have lagged behind demand. Then in January, the Department of Government Efficiency DOGE began implementing its cost-cutting plan. The result, the lowest staffing levels in 50 years, with more than 7,000 positions lost or left vacant. For the people trying to reach SSA every day, those numbers mean longer waits, delayed claims, and fewer in-person options. In Syracuse, New York, for example, over 200,000 seniors share $330 million in monthly benefits, but local offices are stretched thin. Hold times have topped 45 minutes walk-ins, wait hours, and website outages earlier this year left thousands unable to check their benefits or file forms. It's a service many have paid into their whole lives, and now they're finding it harder than ever to access. That's the backdrop for Schumer's proposal. His bill focuses on 4 areas aimed at reversing the decline. First, it stops local field office closures unless Congress approves them. These offices are lifelines for people who can't travel far or navigate complex online forms. Recent closures in rural towns have forced residents to drive over 50 miles for in-person help. Under the bill, no such shutdown could proceed without public review and a congressional vote. Second, it launches a major hiring push. This isn't just replacing a few positions. It's rebuilding the workforce, so phones get answered, claims are processed promptly, and in-person service returns to acceptable levels. The SSA's own Inspector General has warned that without more staff, basic service standards will keep slipping. Third, it invests $5 billion a year in technology upgrades. That means replacing decades-old systems, modernizing online tools, speeding up claim decisions, and improving cybersecurity. Many of SSA's core IT systems date to the 1980s, and recent GAO reports say these outdated platforms are prone to errors and cyber vulnerabilities. Fourth, it reforms how overpayment errors are handled. Right now, if SSA accidentally sends you too much, they can demand repayment even years later, and even if it's their fault. The bill would limit these clawbacks so people aren't penalized for mistakes they didn't make. It would also add civil and criminal penalties for anyone who tampers with Social Security data, including DOJ, if it oversteps its authority. Supporters see the plan as a straightforward way to protect a program that 97% of older Americans depend on. But opposition has been vocal. Some Republicans and former Trump-era officials argue it could raise costs without solving the trust fund's long-term shortfall. A few have promoted partial privatization, saying private systems can be more efficient. Critics respond that this would expose retirees to market risks and undermine the guarantee of lifetime benefits. Tensions spiked earlier this year when one privatization advocate joked that if his mother's check didn't arrive, she'd manage without complaint. The remark drew outrage from senior groups who called it out as out of touch with the reality many retirees face. Schumer has presented the bill as a common-sense safeguard, not a partisan move, but passing it won't be easy. As one analyst put it, unless Republicans can be convinced this was their idea all along, the measure faces a steep climb. Still, public opinion is strongly in favor of preserving Social Security. Across the country, communities have successfully fought to keep local offices open, proving that public pressure can make a difference. That's where things stand. A program under strain, a controversial new agency cutting costs, and a bill aiming to restore service and protect beneficiaries. In the next part, we'll look at what this legislation could mean for you and how it fits into the bigger challenge of keeping Social Security solvent for decades to come. So what would this bill mean for you? If you're already collecting Social Security, it could bring shorter waits, fewer service breakdowns, and more certainty that your local office will stay open. Fixing a benefits error might take days instead of months. Disability claims could move forward without hours on hold or repeated callbacks. For anyone who's sat through the hold music only to be disconnected, the focus on staffing and technology upgrades would be a real change. If you're not yet receiving benefits, the stakes are still high. This is about keeping the system intact for when your turn comes, whether that's in 10, 20, or 30 years. Every paycheck you earn now sends payroll taxes into Social Security. In that sense, it's not a distant government program. It's a commitment you're funding today for your future. Even younger workers could feel the difference. Right now, reaching SSA can mean navigating a maze of call centers, outdated online forms, and letters that arrive weeks late. By restoring staffing levels and updating decades-old systems, the bill aims to make the agency responsive again, a place where you can get answers, not a source of frustration. But there's a larger issue the bill doesn't solve. The April 2025 Social Security Trustees Report confirmed that the combined trust funds for retirement and disability benefits are projected to run short by 2033. If Congress does nothing, benefits would have to be cut by about 23% to match incoming payroll tax revenue. For the average retiree, that could mean hundreds of dollars less each month, a cut many simply can't afford. That looming deadline means Congress will still have to make tough choices. Some proposals call for raising the cap on taxable earnings so higher-income workers pay more. Others suggest new revenue sources or adjusting the payroll tax rate. Each option is politically charged, but failing to act would guarantee the across-the-board cuts that everyone wants to avoid. Many policy experts see service improvements as part of the bigger picture. If lawmakers can show that Social Security can be modernized and run efficiently, it's easier to make the case for fixing its finances. Public trust in the program is high, but trust in Washington's ability to manage it has been shaken. Demonstrating competence now could help build momentum for broader reform later. It's also worth remembering just how much Social Security does. It's one of the most effective anti-poverty programs in U.S. history, keeping millions of seniors, disabled workers, and survivors out of poverty every year. It provides dignity and stability after decades of work. Even with all the challenges, it sends more than $1 trillion in benefits annually to households in every county across the nation. That's why the debate over this bill resonates beyond party lines. Most Americans, regardless of politics, say they want to protect Social Security. Communities have rallied to save field offices. Beneficiaries have fought clawback notices that threaten their security. And there's growing support for asking the wealthiest Americans to contribute more. All of these threads feed into the same story, defending a promise that's been in place for nearly 90 years. Whether or not Schumer's bill passes the conversation it's starting is crucial. And being informed, knowing the facts instead of just the talking points, is how you can take part in that conversation. If you've run into these service problems yourself, or if you believe that a program you've paid into your whole working life should be there when you need it, this is the time to pay attention to what Congress does next. Social Security works. It's not perfect, and it will need serious adjustments to thrive in the decades ahead. But it remains a cornerstone of financial security for millions of Americans. Keeping it strong is a choice, one that requires action, not just talk. Thanks for spending this time with me today. Take care, stay informed, and keep the conversation going. I'll see you next time.